Hello and welcome to Bristol Sport TV. Well, as the global pandemic of coronavirus continues to impact our world, each week we're giving you a glimpse of how our players, staff and coaches are coping with life in lockdown. And today I'm pleased to say that I'm joined by Bristol City head coach Lee Johnson. Lee, great to have you as our virtual guest. I hope you and the family are all well.
Hi Lisa, yeah, we're very good, thank you. Very good to see you as well, and what a lovely view out of your window you've got.
Yes, my spare bedroom has transformed beautifully, I feel. Last year, when that pre-season tour to Florida embarked and the coaches are all busy doing all of their preparation for how the season's going to look and how it's going to pan out, no one could have predicted this. How on earth do you plan for something like this and cope with something like this?
Well, it's very difficult to. I think it's so unprecedented that all we can do is be fluid. And I think that the lads have been great so far. They've been willing to do anything that's required of them, both on and off the pitch. I think that we've worked extremely hard to get to this point. And then obviously now we've got to this point, there's so much uncertainty. We are looking and sort of searching for that light at the end of the tunnel at the moment. And in terms of planning, we have to plan for every eventuality, and I think that's the key. So whether that be return to training in small numbers, or whether that be potentially taking over a hotel for 6 weeks and playing our games behind closed doors, that's also something that's been mooted about as well. So for us, it's just to be fluid, to make sure we cover all the bases, get as much early information as possible to give us the best chance, not only of informing the players, but also of planning really 9 very, very important games. And everybody wants this football to come back. I think we're all over it now in terms of lockdown, and I think everybody's just desperate to resume back to normal life.
Yeah, well, of course, you mentioned it there. Of course, when the lockdown came, we were just a point off those playoff places, and it is about how we can be best prepared for when that resumption happens.
Yeah, I think that in one sense that would be a positive for us, because we have had a number of changes throughout the season, a number of new players come in, a number of experienced players in our philosophy having left. So I think even just the fact that we've got a 3 or 4 week training period before we do resume, hopefully, that we can be really hit the ground running. And we've got a fit group anyway, so it's a young athletic group. And I trust them. So all the programs and the work that they've been doing themselves, I'm pretty sure they'll come back as fit as a fiddle. And then it's a case of just sort of almost reintroducing them to the ball and those partnerships and getting that cohesion going as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you touched on it there about having players back. I know when I was talking to Tanya Oxtoby a while ago for the City Women, she was talking about every game that got delayed towards the end of the season because of rescheduling of cup runs then. That was ahead of coronavirus. She was saying, well, it kind of does us a favour because we'll have players back from international duty and more players at our disposal. Of course, for you guys, in a way, it's similar. I guess someone like Brnicka Phobe that would be back in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's certainly winners and losers out of this unfortunate pandemic we've got, but there's definitely reasons to be optimistic as well. I think that's the key. Players like, as you mentioned, Brnicka Phobe, 7 months out, and actually having 2 or 3 months really to get ahead of steam to be able to reintroduce back to the first team squad. You've got the likes of Callas that has been struggling pretty much all season with a bit of a knee injury that's affected him, so we expect to get him back, and not only the name on the team sheet, but it's the human being at their best, and mentally, physically, and having a clean run at it. And we always talk about pre-seasons, how important they are, and every player that seems to have a solid pre-season, it gives them a base, so it enables us actually to have this 3 or 4 week pre-season and get everybody in tip-top shape. And yeah, I'm moving into the last 9 games with a very optimistic and positive mindset, that's for sure.
Yeah. Take us back to that sort of time when the lockdown actually first happened. I mean, it seems incredible now to think at the beginning of the March we were sort of celebrating that 125th anniversary game, that game against Fulham, and then suddenly the cessation of the league. Just talk us through the steps, just personally that you went through, but also the steps that the club went through to make sure everyone was as best prepared as they could be for that remote training and the training from home.
I think probably initially it was denial, if I'm honest. It was that feeling of this can't be happening. And as that net closes and comes closer to the UK or to Bristol, you hear about the first case, you hear about somebody you know that's got the first case. It all becomes very, very real. And obviously, one of the big points in football was Mikel Arteta going down with the coronavirus. And that quickly changed the landscape for everybody. Obviously, we was due to play Blackburn on the Saturday, and you could feel momentum building, if you like, publicly in terms of government and certainly individuals, particularly the players as well, were starting to fear going into these match situations because obviously football's a contact sport and there's a lot of it. So Mark Ashton, of course, is on the EFL board. That was also in touch with government and on the Premier League board as well. So we did have a lot of early information coming our way. And I think the key was really to have to really almost put like a month's worth of planning into like 2 days. And that included just logistical pieces like getting the players enough equipment that they needed to be able to train at home. We wasn't sure how long this would last. But of course, the players need to stay fit because we didn't know whether it was going to be 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks. So we had to create like a register. Scotty was doing deliveries and getting out watt bikes and spin bikes out to the boys. And then, of course, like the players want to go home because they fear for their families. And of course, we had Benkovic that unbelievably his family went through a earthquake in Zagreb. So you can imagine that it's not just fears for yourself and your own health, but it's generally fears for your family, and particularly if you've got elderly grandparents like I have. And that's your first instinct. Are they taking this seriously? How can I help? Are they going to be okay? And it really moves quickly away from football, and it becomes a human piece that we try and do our best for everybody. And I think there's been some unbelievable work gone on from the players in terms of donations, but also like the Bristol City, Bristol Sport, and Ashton Gate staff members. I think like likes of Matt Parsons, Suzanne Coombs, and Scotty Murray have been picking up and delivering food to the Bristol food banks, and I think that's been absolutely fantastic. And head chef George Ashton Gate, who's been preparing nigh on 1,000 meals for the vulnerable people around Bristol. So I think that's when you truly get that sense of the community coming together. And of course, whether it be players donating funds to the food banks or people like George and everybody that's been volunteering down at Ashton Gate, they should get a lot of credit because, like I say, a lot of people have benefited that may not have in this environment without their help.
Yeah, well, you talk about sort of searching for some of the positives. We always talk about football, football as a community and how it can touch the lives of people. But actually, this has really felt like an opportunity for football and for the stadium to really give something back into the community, hasn't it? And like you say, been astounded by the outpouring of support and the positives that have come from that of the Robbins Foundation going out into the community, into its heartland, and delivering those much needed care packages and food. And as you say, Matt Parsons and Suzanne Coombs with the food banks as well. It's been quite heartwarming.
Yeah, and I think it's taught us a few lessons as well, hasn't it? I think sometimes you've got to be able to sit back and reflect. We live in such a fast-paced world now, and this has given us time to be able to look at what exactly is important, and certainly the community and your neighbour and everybody around in Bristol is obviously very important, obviously headed up by the NHS and the key health workers that have been working so hard and putting their sort of bodies and lives on the line, if you like, to help others. But then there's some lovely stories, obviously, on the back of that. Some people would have heard probably on social media Rob Fernandez winning the lottery, and then instantly donating half to the NHS and half to homeless charity in Bristol. So yeah, there's been some lovely stories really come out the back of this. At the same time, I think everybody agrees we've got to get the country going again. We've got to get the economy moving when it's safe to do so, and of course, a big part of that is football and sport in Bristol.
Yeah, of course. So you made that phone call to Rob Fernandez. It was a brilliant moment, wasn't it? It's not very often I see you lost for words, but for a split second, I think you thought, did I just hear you correctly? You're donating that immediately straight back to charity.
Yeah, because I didn't tell him that it was being recorded, so I thought, Rob, there's no way you can go back on this now. But yeah, to be honest, I heard the phone call. It was obviously a lovely phone call to make, because we've been making other phone calls as well, both positive and also calls that have families that have been bereaved and stuff like that. So it's been a real mix for the interactions that we've had with Bristol City supporters. So in my head, the ideal scenario was going to be somebody that had maybe lost their job, or you know what I mean, had struggled financially, and all of a sudden we're hitting them with a fantastic windfall. But this was even better because of the instinct that Rob gave out, just to instantly be selfless and give the money back into areas that needed it.
Yeah, it was an incredible gesture, and as you say, it was recorded, which made it all the more poignant for us to be able to use it. It was a brilliant moment. You've talked about there that some of the things that are going on behind the scenes, and you know, you've been in football. Your family have been in football for so many years now. You're kind of hardened to what appears often in the media, but I think anyone that knows the group of lads that you have engaged within the team and the whole staff structure. Couldn't help but feel sometimes a little bit like there is so much more going on behind the scenes with these phone calls and the lads all really wanting to do their bit and help. It's been quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, certainly professionally, nobody's switched off. There's a lot of planning to be done. There's a lot of reflecting, you know, what have we done well over this sort of period of 4 or 5 years since the staff's been together? What could we improve on? I've got a lot of young players. It's given us a time to look at their clips, for example. You know, young players like Johnny Smith at Oldham and Tyreek Bakinson at Plymouth. All these players, it gives us a good chance to really study how they've been doing, speak to the managers of those respective clubs that they're at. But also, obviously, stay in touch on a human level with the lads. So we've been hosting various webinars, some tactical, and Matt Parsons, we call him the Games Master, has been put a bingo session on as well, which was good fun. We've been doing family fortunes amongst us. So we have tried to stay in contact. And like this morning, for example, I just come off the back of quite a physical Zoom that we done. And it was almost like old school pop mobility. I know that word hasn't been bandied around for a long time, but my mum used to run classes in Newmarket, so that's how I remember it. But, yeah, so I think that we've got to engage with the players mentally. Of course, we've got to engage physically, and it's been nice to just check on, particularly the younger players and their understanding and their knowledge of what we've been trying to coach. And like so far, so good. A couple have struggled naturally, you know, the ones that have been on their own without family around them. Maybe a couple of the foreign players that sort of in the centre of Bristol in a one-bed apartment. And of course, we can be sympathetic to those, but at the same time, they've got a lot to look forward to. So, yeah, we've just been trying to help people along the way, and like I say, be super ready for when we come back, and whether that's us as a staff or the players in a physical and mental capacity, we've got to do everything we possibly can to fight for this chance of obviously Premier League football.
You've touched there on sort of mental health well-being. Of course, the EFL charity is Mind, and there's a huge consciousness of how important mental health is. Just talk us through some of the steps behind the scenes that are going on to make sure that people are effectively staying sane behind closed doors. Because, I mean, elite athletes probably of everyone relish routine, but that routine has been completely stripped away.
Yeah, and I think that's difficult for anybody. You know, like I say, I've got elderly grandparents, and I've had to stay in touch by putting on sort of every other day bingo sessions, and it's pretty much cost me about £20 every other day so far in bingo prizes. But it's important, you know, people have got to stay connected, stay engaged. It's no different with football players. I think what we try and do as a club, and we do it really well, headed up by Jill Holt, um, and the doctor, who obviously deal with the mental health element. But we have two very strong streams. One is mental health, and then the other is performance psychology. And I think those two, we keep them quite separate, if you like. But we have some very, very top experts at hand if any of the players, or indeed the players' families, need any of those expertise. And like I say, it is different, you know, mental health and sports psychology. But I think first and foremost, the contact is important in this phase, you know, where we're making sure that at least every day, every other day, the lads are being made contact, whether it be the physio, whether it be me, whether it be each other. And I think you can ask certain questions that obviously will give out a feel for how that individual is coping with this particular situation. Some will just be missing football. Some will actually be struggling. And I think that we're all going through these waves. I know myself and my family are up and down like yo-yos, in terms of like every hour, do you want to get out? You want to stay in? Like there's a whole process that comes with sort of feeling like you're being pent up, if you like. So luckily we've coped with it pretty well as a family, and Isabella's homeschooling's been going well. She's managed to teach me a lot more than I knew before. I've been learning all sorts about fractions and Spanish Armada and everything that goes along with those lessons. So I think for me, that's been nice as well, to be able to be at home with my daughter and being present, because often we could be playing a game or chatting, and I'm thinking about what session I'm going to put on, or the detail of that session, or the team I'm going to pick for Saturday. So someone like me that has been on that hamster wheel, if you like, for 7 or 8 years, in terms of football management, it's been nice to be able to sit back and reflect. And given the fact that it's a forced situation, you have to take the positives out of it, and really try and use your time positively.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about that insight into family life. I'm glad your homeschooling's going well. I have to say mine probably isn't quite as much. PE is featuring very highly on our home curriculum at the moment. In terms of that pausing moment to reflect, it's interesting. Mark Ashton once spoke about running a football club is a bit like constantly building an aircraft in flight. Well, actually, for once, we've got a chance to pause. And as you say, everything is stopped. So it is about grabbing those moments and taking those moments, because actually cherishing the ones that are around you. If you're in a happier home space and home environment, it could lead to improved performances across the board.
Absolutely, and I think this club's trajectory has been fantastic. Obviously, you've got on the pitch results, if you like, but you've also got off the field work that's been done. The training ground coming will be huge for particularly players that are 16, 17, because obviously at the moment we're on split sites. But to be able to get our young, talented players up to Fayland and interacting with the senior players and the senior staff at Bristol City, that would be huge. We've got a talented pool of young players coming into the building, and again, that's something as a coach is very, very exciting. But there's also got to be restructures as the club expands, as the club gets bigger, and also make sure that you're absolutely maximising every drop of finance that's being put into the football club, because inevitably you'll be judged, if you like, by the decision-making process and making more right decisions than wrong ones.
Yeah. You talk about learning new things while in this sort of paused time. You haven't been tempted to take up some new TikTok routines?
Oh my God. Well, my rhythm, anybody that's seen me in pam pams over the years will know that my rhythm is probably one of the worst in Bristol. But yeah, I have given it a couple of go, but I'm like more of like the rapper out the back and that just tries to look cool, but inevitably just becomes another bad dad, if you like, in terms of cramping a young daughter's style.
Yes, I'd imagine she'd be horrified if she's anything like mine. In terms of the players, though, of course, so there's been a whole rise of social media of players, and actually this kind of real human element, the human conversation, has really come out, I think, from professional sports people across the board, not just within football. That actually this time has given us an insight into, often what is very stage managed and very carefully managed sort of media personas, where everyone has seen a real human side because we're all exposed to this global tragedy.
Yeah, I think in an ideal world, that's what people want anyway. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, in the sort of what would you call it, the bubble, and that cauldron, if you like, of media attention and scrutiny on football players while the season's going on, often they have to shield and protect themselves from potential pitfalls. So I think this is a time where they can sort of let their personality flow a little bit more, and some of the fun things that we've seen with the lads and their kids having to entertain themselves has just brought it back round really to a human level, because I think sometimes footballers get bad press, but I can firsthand say that we're, particularly at this club, but footballers in general, are fantastic people. You know what I mean? And there's a lot that they do to help, and that they don't get credit for, and they don't seek public press for. And I think that that's starting to come out now in the personalities, and the fact that people are seeing a bit more about their daily lives and what makes them tick, and of course what makes them humble and human.
Yeah, well, of course, Corey Smith was probably one of the first ones. And I think I saw a clip of you casting doubt on whether or not he actually managed to get that tea bag in the cup. So, your assessment of that one.
Yeah, well, I see his touch every day, and I'm pretty sure he must have had 300 goes at that to put that in there. I think I saw Hattie with a little bit of fishing string. Hattie, his wife, and as he clipped it, I think she dropped it in from a large height. Yeah, I'm not convinced.
So have you picked up some of the home domestic duties?
Oh, I've been doing everything. Yeah, I've been completely bullied. Now there's not a lot of football. I'm permanently running around with a Hoover and with my little marigolds on. And no, no, it's been good. Like I say, we've shared the load, that's for sure. I've actually had loads of work on. I've been surprised. And for me, part of my sort of mental state, if you like, is to be able to have a structure throughout the day. And like in the morning, we always have a staff meeting between myself and the staff. I say we've been doing these physical Zooms, and the staff have been getting involved as well, which is nice. Coming back and spending a couple of hours with CPD and like looking at various people and places all over the world, and trying to learn from others at that point. Plus, I've been having like my sort of network of mentors and regular Skypes and interaction with them, which has been good. Speaking to Mark every day, as we do, 2 or 3 times a day. And then trying to do a little bit of physical work as well in my designated hour, whether that be a bike ride with Izzy, my daughter, or get in a garage where we've got a fully stocked gym, so it's not bad. So there's no excuse for me to come back not in half decent shape.
I know, but it's astounding, isn't it, how quickly the hours in the day do go? Because I think everyone is actually, it feels like we're busier than ever, even without match days. I mean, that analysis and all of the video stuff, it seems to be that we've got more time to do it. So everyone is filling their days with that kind of content. And of course, video analysis, coaching analysis is endless.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things we've been working on is quite a large document, but it's an analytical document for the academy on terminology, philosophy, and exactly the way we work. And I think that's going to be really important moving forward, because particularly with the way we want to go and develop our young players and see those young players get into Bristol City's first team and stay in there. With the new training ground coupled by having the younger players up earlier, it's all going to enable them to bed in as quick as possible. And I can assure the fans that it's very exciting in terms of the young players that we've got backed up really through all the age groups. And it's a lot of good work from a lot of good people coming to fruition. And hopefully we'll see the fruits of that at first team level very soon.
Yeah, well, you talk about that sort of putting in work in the very foundations, and this is a golden opportunity to sort of concentrate on some of that. Of course, last week there was the news about wage deferrals for the players and the staff, the letter from Mark Ashton, and you referenced in that sort of how impressed you were by the club, by the staff, and everyone's feeling that there is this, we are all in this together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, it's the trust that we've got, if you know what I mean, the culture that's been built across the group. I think there's an honesty and an openness about that. And I think naturally in situations like this, people have got to sacrifice. And if that helps retain jobs and that helps kick the club forward, if you like, once we come out of this spell, then everybody seems more than happy to do that. And I think the players and the staff have absolutely epitomised their class with the way they've gone about it, both in terms of discussions and actually just trusting the people that are important to the football club, and also being there for everybody else. So it's not just on a self-sacrifice level. They've also sacrificed for others, and I think that's a sign really that we've got a very positive, strong culture, not only at the football club but across the Bristol Sport brand.
Mm-hmm. Lee, it's been great to talk to you. Thanks for sparing some time for us. I'll let you get back to your marigolds and on with the housework and your coaching drills.
Thanks, Lisa. Cheers. Good to see you.
Well, that's it from Bristol Sport TV for this week. As Lee said, plans and preparations continue apace for how and when Bristol City will resume its push for promotion. In the meantime, do subscribe to our socials so you can stay across all our latest breaking news and information. But stay home, stay safe, and stay well.